Rise and shine, everyone. 6:01 here on your Tuesday morning. Jason and Alicia with you. Sorry for the CoComelon sound cue. You probably had your kids run towards the television.
Kids woke up early. They're all screaming at their parents to put on CoComelon.
We're going to dive deep into that here in just a few minutes. But we got to talk about the weather, though, because it's once again cold outside, which I wasn't ready for.
I've already forgotten, John. I was like, oh, yes, this is what it's like.
It hits hard. I walked out. I was like, oh, man. Yeah, we used to do the CoComelon. Now we're on Ninja Kids for YouTube Kids. If you know at home, the Ninja Kids, they made their own soundtrack as well. And I actually sing along in the car, and I like it. It's 0 degrees out there. I'm not embarrassed about it. Minus 17 degrees for the feels like wind chill. It is really, really cold, and it does hit a little harder. Now, obviously, we've been at minus 17 to minus 20, 20, 30 times this winter. But it just feels colder because it was 52 last week. Come on. Well, we lost our one. Now we're at 0. Do I think we'll go below 0? What time is it? 5 something? 6 o'clock? Good job, Johnny. Yeah, I think that I used to have glasses. Yeah, I think we're going to go another degree down because our low hits at about 7 o'clock this morning. 14 below in Bemidji, 11 below in Grand Rapids. Winds are the issue this morning at 10 miles per hour. That's why it feels like minus 17. It's cold everywhere. The big story is obviously the cold air. The second story is that snow coming in on Wednesday. We'll time it out. I'll let you know the impacts and who's going to see the most in your forecast. Coming up, TZ.
Is off to a good start. Only seeing a couple of things pop up across the metro. Seeing a stalled vehicle in South St. Paul here, 494 eastbound. This is near Blaine Avenue. As you can see, though, traffic is pretty slow in that area, so you shouldn't have any issues moving toward Woodbury. Also seeing a stalled vehicle on 52 southbound right at the exit ramp to 494 eastbound. That one also out of the way as you try to make that ramp. Otherwise, things across the metro very, very quiet compared to yesterday morning. I'll have a tour around the metro when I see you next.
Thank you, Cece. We'll take a look at your screen right now if you can. An Amber Alert is in effect for a missing pregnant teenager in Wisconsin. Officials say 16-year-old Sophia Franklin was last seen at her home in Beaver Dam on Sunday night. That's just northwest of Milwaukee. She's believed to be with 40-year-old Gary Day, who they say is the father of her baby. The two have a no-contact order. Anyone with any information is asked to call 911. Well, now to our top story. The U.S. has staved off a trade war with two of its top allies, at least for now.
Yeah, but while you were sleeping, tariffs against imported goods coming from China took effect. Michelle Beck is here in the newsroom to break down what it all means moving forward. Michelle.
Well, guys, Trump plans to talk with China's president in the next few days, but already this top trading partner has fired back. In the last few hours, China announced a new 15% tariff on American coal and liquefied natural gas. That's on top of a 10% tariff on U.S. products from crude oil to pickup trucks. These measures are set to take effect next Monday, a response to Trump's 10% tariff on all Chinese imports kicking in overnight. And mere minutes after it did, China called out specific U.S. companies like Google. It's now being investigated for alleged antitrust violations.
China hopefully is going to stop sending us fentanyl, and if they're not, the tariffs are going to go substantially higher.
So for now, Trump has put a pause on the tariffs he threatened against Canada and Mexico, saying they've made concessions around border security. Back to you.
Michelle, thank you for that. Well, developing overnight, the University of Minnesota is facing questions from the federal government over reports of anti-Semitism.
It's part of President Trump's promise to take aggressive action to fight anti-Jewish bias on campus. And Audrey Russo is live at the U of M with more on the investigation. Good morning, Audrey.
Good morning, Jason and Alicia. Yeah, we learned in the last 12 hours that the U of M is one of 5 universities nationwide facing this type of federal scrutiny. And it stems from the protests and the encampments that happened here on campus right across the street from where I'm standing last spring as Israeli-Palestinian tensions were escalating. Now, these encampments forced the closure of some buildings on campus, and the university even moved some of its classes online. Now, the investigation is part of an executive order from President Trump. The Education Department accuses the university of tolerating anti-Semitic harassment, quote, driving Jewish life and religious expression underground. Now, this is fresh news for the university, who confirms they were notified of the investigation just in the last 24 hours. They also reiterated their policy of responding to reports of bias and harassment. And this morning, we're keeping an eye on how the student groups who were involved in these protests last year are are reacting. I'll have an update in about 30 minutes, but for now, Jason, Alicia, I'll send things back to you.
All right, Audrey Russo reporting live. Thank you. Right now, 2 airport employees are facing charges after last week's deadly mid-air collision in D.C. According to the airport authority officials, the employees made an unauthorized copy of video showing the crash and then shared it with media outlets. We're also learning crews plan to lift the plane's cockpit from the Potomac River by today, as long as the weather cooperates. The wreckage will be then taken to a hangar for the National Transportation Safety Board to continue investigating the cause of the collision. So far, officials have identified 55 of the 67 people killed.
The jury is now seated and opening statements will begin Monday in the trial of the alleged mastermind behind the Feeding Our Future meal fraud. Amy Bach, the former executive director of the nonprofit, faces charges of conspiracy, wire fraud, bribery, and federal program fraud, along with Salim Syed, a former owner of Safari Restaurant in Minneapolis. 2 others were supposed to stand trial with them, but they pleaded guilty last week. Now they could end up testifying against Bach and Syed. A number of others who recently pleaded guilty to fraud could also be used as witnesses.
This morning, Minnesota House Republicans are launching a recall effort against DFL legislators who have been boycotting the session. The recall petition process officially began in the last 15 hours when the 66 DFL lawmakers once again did not show up for the House floor session. House DFLers are boycotting the session in protest to the GOP's plan to organize with a temporary 1-seat majority. The House GOP is launching a website today, www.minnesotarecall.com.
This morning, the Minnesota Senate Finance Committee is reviewing federal funding coming to the state as President Trump attempts to freeze funds. A judge extending the temporary block for another 2 weeks as it was set to expire yesterday. They're going to hear from the Department of Education on how the freeze could affect students, teachers, and public schools. And this all comes as Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison is warning federal employees to be cautious about the Trump administration's buyout offer. Many federal employees got an email last week offering pay and benefits through the end of September. Ellison, along with 11 other state attorneys general, say that the benefits aren't guaranteed and said employees should check with union leaders before making any decisions.
Time now 6:08, and this morning we're learning more about the progress of ongoing reform in the Minneapolis Police Department. This is all part of a settlement following George Floyd's murder in 2020. The update comes from the first semi-annual report from an independent evaluator. It shows the city is on track to meet most of its year 1 goals. The report covers a period from March of 2024 to September of 2024. Progress is shown in several areas, including trainings, tackling misconduct, complaint backlogs, and policy revisions.
Being able to bang this stuff out, so much of it is I think is the most important thing for a year 1 in any consent decree. You got to have the policies right first before you can implement anything, and then still before you can implement it, you have to have your training developed.
Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara went on to say he is fully committed to implementing the required changes.